In just a few weeks, the downtown marketplace on 10th Street between Fort and Ash will be lively and full of sun-ripened fruit and vegetables, S-U-N. I have visited that marketplace. The Chestnut Street district is full of activity almost every day, and now we are able to, on Wednesdays and Saturdays, go pick up some fruits and vegetables. Some of those fruits and vegetables that we've been getting have probably been purchased at a marketplace, such as Dillon's or such as Walmart or other markets. Soon we will be able to pick up sun-ripened fruits and vegetables from the marketplace right downtown Hays, Kansas. Some of us have already been picking some of our fruits and vegetables from our own gardens, and we've noticed how they have ripened as the sun and the rains came to help nurture those fruits and vegetables. Today's passage is not about fruits and vegetables. I do indeed get that. Today's passage, much like what Molly McMurtry was sharing with the children earlier, has a great deal to do with who we are. That we are sent out. We're ripened, sun-ripened, S-O-N. We are ripened, and then we go into the world. You heard what Karen just read just moments ago, and maybe you followed her along in the pew Bibles that are there in front of you. You heard how Karen was talking about and how the Gospel of Luke is picking up a story that's a continuous story with what was happening just a few scenes back. Let's go back in time just a moment. We'll get back to the present. The Gerasenes is where the Gospel of Luke had us just a while back. The Gerasene that was in question was that wild Gerasene that was chained to the tombs. And as that moment came to fruition, the Messiah gave new life to that Gerasene that had been chained to the tomb area. And then the disciples and Jesus got back into familiar territory, into the territory between the Mediterranean Sea and the Sea of Galilee. That whole area is where this particular scene is taking place, the one that Karen just read. What's going on here? There are more than 12 disciples. Where did all these people come from? They came from a surrounding area near Capernaum and points to the south and points to the east. They were finding their way to the Messiah. They were finding their way to his teachings. They had been touched, either physically touched, emotionally touched, mentally touched by the Messiah. Something was different in them. They had a faith that was beginning to grow. And so the Messiah capitalized on this moment. It was a teaching moment. It's a teaching moment for the disciples and a teaching moment for us. Some of us may say, "Oh, I'm not ready to do that just yet." I suspect if Armand Kelly has found you already, he may have been tapping some of us on the shoulder. He, of course, is the chair of the worship work area, and I believe the worship work area is working very hard on finding liturgists like what Karen is doing in the absence of an associate pastor. And I'm certain that if Dr. Armand Kelly came to you and said to you, "I believe you would be a good liturgist for us some Sunday morning," and you might say, I'm no good at that. I can't do that. The disciples may have been saying that same sort of thing too when they heard the Messiah say, "Let's go out. Let's talk about what we're living. Let's spread the news. Some of the disciples may have said, I'm not a good speaker. I don't know everything. I'm not a good healer. I couldn't do what you're doing, Jesus. So Jesus sends them out in twos. And as Molly pointed out, this group of 70, which has grown from the 12 disciples, this group of 70 is now going to towns and villages in the area, south and a little bit west of Capernaum now. They're going down into the region that is fertile, that is full of little Jewish communities. And these disciples, these first faith followers, are beginning to instruct in the ways of the Messiah. To be sure, some of those towns and villages had heard of this man, this rabbi, this wise one, this prophet who was healing people, who was taking lives and changing them. But the disciples, these first faith followers, these 70 people were going out, even though their ripeness was not completely ready for eating, even though they were not quite ready to do what they were doing, the Messiah sent them out in twos. Together they went out into these villages to proclaim something was going to be changing in their life, that they were going to be visited by the Messiah. These disciples were given specific instructions. You heard what Karen read. If you enter a town and if you have some problem, eat what's been put in front of you. Retract the blessing if you're not being received very well. There were specific instructions for those 2 by 2 going out. The disciples returned. They returned to the Messiah almost in abounding joy. I heard it, what Karen was reading. They came back and they began to tell the Savior, the Messiah, the wise one, this is what happened to us. We began to heal people. We began to see things in a new way. Our faith has been made fuller because we went out. I suspect that some of us have a faith that can be made fuller. I doubt if there's any one of us that would raise our hand and say, we have complete faith. We are completely full. We are completely where we should be. We're perfect. Now, John Wesley, one of the founders of Methodism, said we're going on to perfection in this lifetime. So it's possible, according to Wesley, that we could receive or achieve perfection in our lifetime. We, however, right here in this assembly might say, I'm not quite ripe. I'm not quite ready to do all of that. So we might go out in twos, the Messiah would say. A couple of things that I would say popped right off the page at me as I was reviewing this particular passage from Luke's gospel, as I'm thinking about my life of faith and how I might engage God in my life. First of all, God has gifted us, each one of us different. I dare say that last week, those of us who were around here in this sanctuary, I dare say that many of us left the sanctuary saying, oh, I could do exactly what Jalynn did on the bells. I could ring those bells all by myself. I know I didn't. I know I didn't leave the sanctuary saying I could do that all by myself. In fact, I said something quite contrary. I said, I don't think if I had a bell in my hand, I don't think it would stay in my hand very long. It might fling out into the congregation, accidentally, of course. I think many of us today sit here and say and observe Christopher and Dawson and Hannah in their gift of music. And we say, I don't know that I could do that. I don't know that I have the gift and ability, the skill, the timing. I don't think I could do what they do. I suspect that if we looked around, each one of us would find one or two things that we probably wouldn't say that we're very gifted at. In fact,